Good evening, America. Rabbi Block here. I missed the last two Wednesdays. It was Passover. Tonight marks the end of Passover for some of us. For more traditional Jews, an extra day was added to the calendar, so Passover for them will end tomorrow night. And I'm back on my schedule of Wednesday night. Holocaust observance, Yom HaShoah, is next Monday, April 13th, ending on Tuesday, April 14th. Remember that the Jewish calendar is a solar-corrected lunar calendar. Well, it's a lunar calendar that's solar-corrected. And therefore, the days swing in relation to the Gregorian, our regular calendar. However, the day begins at sundown. It says in the book of Genesis, there was evening and morning one day. It doesn't say midnight. It says sundown. So the Jewish holidays and observances go with sundown. So Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust observance, begins Monday, April 13th at sundown, and ends Tuesday night, April 14th at sundown. So if you're going online to look for an observance, some of them will be Tuesday night, some will be Monday night, some will be Tuesday. And some places will observe the Holocaust, Yom HaShoah, over the weekend or the Sabbath before. So if you're interested in participating or listening to, please check the local listings and calendar to see when observances are near you. The word Shoah means catastrophe. Holocaust is a Greek word meaning total destruction, a burnt offering. Okay? The blueprint, say it louder. No, I'm looking down at the chats. Remember, I'd like to look up and then look down. So please, if you type something in the chat and I missed it, please repeat it. Because my mind was thinking about Holocaust observance, and that's something I wanted to talk about, was a day set aside to remember the destruction, the scale, the intention of killing not only 6 million Jews, but anyone that protested the Nazi government and Hitler. Remember, thousands of Poles were sent to the camps. The Gestapo, the Nazi secret police that wore masks, raided homes. Roman Catholic priests were rounded up and sent to the death camps. The entire gypsy population of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Europe, was sent to the concentration camps and were murdered. Newspaper reporters, TV people. It was 6 million Jews as Jews, but there were another 12 million or more individuals who protested, objected, or hid Jewish people. Germany was not shy about what I learned and saw. Oh, I put on black shirt. Now the chat is coming up on my face, so I'm having trouble reading it. There are several reasons. There's an agenda to Holocaust observance. One is to remember an event, to remember not only the 6 million Jews, but anyone that protested, anyone that objected, anyone on the newspaper, anyone on television, anyone on the radio, any minister who spoke out in church against the Nazis were raided and sent off to the death camps. So make no mistake, the idea, one of the themes, one of the agendas is to point out that authoritative governments, authoritarian governments, and dictators like Hitler did not limit themselves just to blaming the Jews. They rounded up and killed anyone and everyone that objected. So the number, we don't even know the total number. 12 million, 14 million, far exceeds the 6 million Jews. But as Jews, we are to be a lighthouse. We're to hold up a lantern or a torch, Holocaust, a bright light, to shine upon what happens. If someone just put in it was 1 billion, to point out what happens when one individual comes to power and their political party, the Nazi Party, uses the government and the courts to round up and silence anyone that protests. That's a major theme of Yom HaShoah, of Holocaust observance. And I object to what's going on in the West Bank. I object to what's going on in Lebanon. I object to what's going on in Gaza. And I'm not the only one reminding the Netanyahu government that we have to be extremely careful about labeling people, about what we're doing. And I do not approve of Israel's expansionism. But I'm an American Jew. I'm not an Israeli. I don't vote in Israeli politics, but I can stand up on TikTok and object to what the government of Israel is doing. There is necessary to have security. It's necessary to have a buffer. That's all necessary. However, the expansion and letting the settlers run amok in the West Bank, Netanyahu is letting the settlers run amok against the Palestinian population. And we have the Holocaust to remind us not to do that. The generation of survivors to the Holocaust is shrinking dramatically because of age, because of the time behind us. And so it's now up to those of us who are not Holocaust survivors, did not see it firsthand, to stand as a witness and to point out what happened and to remind each other that unless we're careful, a government can rise up that uses the Gestapo, a secret police, covering their faces, wearing masks, rounding up people, putting them into concentration camps, and it's a short step from that to annihilation. So we want to look at the Holocaust. We want to remember what a government can do. And we want to tell each other that there is a day coming next Monday and Tuesday that is set aside to remember, to observe what happened when a government makes a scapegoat. See, there is another theme within Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Observance Day, is the government finds a scapegoat. The Nazis blamed the Jews. And therefore, the population rallied into exporting, deporting, and then finally killing and murdering 6 million Jews, along with another 6 million who tried to help and protested. And this is to stand out for us. This is a good example. We don't want to let a government scapegoat people and get us to blame them for whatever problems we may having, because Nazi Germany is a living example of what happens when you scapegoat, when you single out a nationality, a religion, a group of people, and blame them for the troubles, for the problems that are going on in society and in government. That's my message for this evening, is to participate. that chat just disappeared very, very quickly. I'd like to remind everyone you can contact me, rabbiblock@hotmail.com, and we can continue our discussion. I have my own Zoom. We can meet in my Zoom room. We can talk on the phone. And if you would like to co-host with me next Wednesday night on this or any topic, you can contact me and we'll discuss co-hosting together. I'm not sure if there's any limit to how many people can join. However, please email me. I'm not going to invite anyone tonight, but you're all invited. How can I get a high-paying job in finance? You know, the person that's asking me about getting a high-paying job in finance, I would suggest you consult with someone, if you're at a college, university, or graduate school, someone in one of those departments. They'll be able to help you with careers. And you can get in touch with any Morgan Stanley, T. Rowe Price, J.P. Morgan. They all have websites. And I bet they have people you could contact about how you can get a career in one of those finances. Why don't you teach Gentiles how to pronounce? I missed the end of that. Someone asked about pronouncing God's name. Okay? Intentionally, God's name in the Torah is printed with a combination of vowels and letters that cannot be pronounced. So if we were to say Yahweh, that is close, but that's not the pronunciation. If we say Jehovah, it's close, it's not the correct pronunciation intentionally, because the commandment says, thou shalt not take God's name in an oath. You're not to use God's name. The commandment says nothing about vulgarity, swear words, being impolite. No. Don't let anyone pull the wool over your eyes or fool you into saying it's one of the 10 commandments. It is not. The Hebrew is very explicit. We are commanded not to use God's name. And to protect against that, God's name is written with a combination of letters and vowels that you can't say. So when we hear Jehovah or Yahweh or any of those combinations, it's some of the letters, but not all of them, because you can't say all of them. Many of you seem really interested in money and finances, so I would suggest, as I said a few minutes ago, get in touch with T. Rowe Price. Get in touch with J.P. Morgan. In fact, whatever bank you use, go in and talk to them, because they're the ones to talk to about loans. They're the ones to talk to about careers, because that's not my specialty. I did not study career planning, and I never went into finances myself. So, okay. Someone just asked me about becoming a rabbi. Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, Renewal, Reconstructionist. Each one has a slightly different path. In Reform and Conservative, you get an undergraduate degree from an accredited college, university. Then you spend 5, 6, or 7 years in rabbinic seminary. I happen to have 2 bachelor's degrees and 1 master's degree. I am also trained as a behavioral therapist. So that's just me personally, because someone asked about how I became a rabbi. I did my undergraduate work at Boston College, and I'm very proud of my Jesuit education and my connection with the Roman Catholic Church, though I myself was born and raised Jewish, and I'm now a rabbi, and I never was a Christian. People have asked me that because you think maybe a Catholic college is only for Catholics. Great education. Okay, I'm reading some of your questions. Judaism does not reject Jesus the person, and concerning the Messiah, hasn't come yet. Remember, Christianity developed the second coming because Christianity itself recognized that Jesus did not fulfill all the requirements as the Messiah, hence the second coming. The second coming in Christianity is the Jewish definition of the coming of the Messiah. Christianity says it will be Jesus. Judaism says we just don't know until it happens. When it happens, then we'll know who's the Messiah. According to the teaching, yes, Judaism and Islam are brother-sister religions. Abraham had 2 children, Isaac and Ishmael. Islam follows Ishmael, Judaism follows Isaac. And so, the same. And the golden age under Islamic rule shows that Jews and Muslims more than cooperated, prospered. And I would like to see a return of that golden age when Judaism and Islam were hand in hand, creating a peaceful, creative environment for medicine, for art, for science, for mathematics. Someone said, how would you pitch Judaism for someone looking for religion? Let's take out the word pitch and put in lead by example. Be a lighthouse. Live Judaism as you understand Judaism. And if you need some help, a plug here for my book, How to Be Jewish in 30 Seconds. Recommend to anybody to read and buy the book, How to Be Jewish in 30 Seconds. The cartoons by Joe are worth the price of the book alone. So rather than trying to convert someone or talk them into Judaism, have them attend services. Show how it lives. Show what you do with it. Don't promote it and don't pitch it. I'm often asked about being a Zionist, and for many people, that means, am I a political Zionist? No, I'm not a political Zionist. Unfortunately, Achad Ha'am's Zionism, which is spiritual, cultural, I'm a spiritual, cultural Zionist, disappeared and has very little traction. Political Zionism pushed that aside, and political Zionism is about establishing the state of Israel. It exists. So, political Zionism, we don't need it anymore. It's time for cultural, spiritual Zionism, which means looking towards Israel, looking towards Jerusalem as a spiritual home. But Israel does exist now and will continue to exist. So now we can change our focus and let Israel be a lighthouse, which it is not. Let Israel live Judaism. And I have said, in fact, 20 odd years ago, I was on Voice of America TV and radio promoting a Palestine, a free, independent Palestine that recognizes the right of Israel to exist. Not a Palestine that's a platform for Iran, not a Palestine that's a platform for Hezbollah or any other terrorist group, not a Palestine that's written into its constitution to destroy Israel. That's not acceptable. A Palestine as a free, independent state like Egypt, like Jordan. A country that acknowledges the right of Israel to exist, then Israel acknowledges the right of Palestine to exist. Yes, but not a Palestine that's just a front for Iran to not only destroy Israel, but destroy Saudi Arabia, the Emirates. Remember, Iran's goal is to control first the Mideast and then the rest of the world. Make no mistake, Iran was and still is the enemy. And the goal of Iran is not a ceasefire, not a treaty. Iran will never abide by it because it has never abided by the nuclear agreements. Iran has to be isolated. and stay isolated. Because it's not only Israel they want to destroy, they want to overrun all of the Middle East, then on to the United States. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. Now, someone just said invite someone to co-host. Definitely, for next Wednesday night, you're invited. RabbiBlock@hotmail.com. Get in touch with me. We'll meet in my Zoom room, and we'll pick our topics and how to go back and forth, and also how to set this up. I'll have to practice and read up on getting a co-host on TikTok. So yes, the answer is yes. You'll be my co-host next Wednesday night. Just get in touch with me. And yes, Israel does have nuclear weapons. And I believe that the Kurds should have the country called Kurdistan. There are a lot of nationalities, so we say, groups of people that share a culture and a history that are denied a land. The Kurds are one of them. They have been denied their own country. The Basques in France, the Basques deserve their own country. They share a heritage. They share a history on the land. Yet, there is no Basque. There's no Kurdistan, and there should be. So there are groups. Not so much that every ethnic group should have recognized borders, because it may not be possible for that many little countries to exist. One way would be if a country recognized various ethnic groups and brought them into the government of that country. So the answer is not for everyone, but the Kurds are so widespread. It's such a large group of people, and they do have a history on a specific piece of geography. It's not as if they're people from 17 or 18 different countries or places wanting to settle together. No, they have a history. They belong together. Do you think that the Christian concept of the Trinity is completely far-fetched or not really? Oh, I think the concept of the Trinity is not far-fetched. I think it explains a lot in understanding God being three and being one. And that's why we have so many different faiths and religions. Not to pit them against each other, not to say that, oh, that one's stupid, or though, no, Mormons are a cult, you shouldn't like them, you shouldn't listen to them. One can learn and study religions. You don't belong to it. What's necessary is to respect individuals who say, this is my path to the one. And for Trinitarians, individuals that find the Trinity a way to unite with God, then there's nothing absurd about it. It's not my chosen path, but that doesn't make it wrong. And it doesn't mean that I should criticize it or compare it to my faith system and say, oh no, that's wrong, that's not. Mine's the right way, mine's right. It's right for me, not for everyone. Yeah, we're talking about one God. We're talking about the one, different names, different ways to accept. So when we talk about Allah, we're talking about Adonai. Each of us has had a different experience finding the one, uniting with God. And so, of course, we're going to use a different name because names are cultural. Just like Kurds being a nomadic people and ranging over Turkey, Iran, Persia, they still had a central area. How should we as Jews... Anti-Semitism is scapegoating Jews. And that's why we have Holocaust observance. To remind everyone of what happens when you scapegoat someone. When you pick on a nationality and blame them for our problems. in dealing with anti-Semitism, we want to talk about Jewish history, contributions of Jews, and also point out that not everything was positive and for the good. We also want to point out what happens, and that's Holocaust observance, Yom HaShoah, what happens when individuals don't stand up and say, no, the Jews didn't do those things, you're making them up. Now, I just received a lot of invites to all of you. You're invited. Send me an email. You'll co-host with me next Wednesday night. The Talmud. The Talmud is rabbinic discussion from 2,000 years ago of the Mishnah, the oral laws that existed. The Talmud is not Jewish law. We don't have to follow it. It's not a commandment. It's rabbinic discussion. If you're keeping kosher, don't put cheese on your beef. If you're keeping kosher. No cheeseburgers if you're keeping kosher. The Talmud is often misunderstood and is presented as if it's binding on all Jews, if it's Jewish law, and the people point, no, it's rabbinic discussion. It's notes that took place in the academy to help us understand various Jewish laws, how to observe the holidays, how to observe the Ten Commandments, or the 613. Okay? And the Talmud is not hateful. It's rabbinic discussion. And in general, it gives both a minority and majority opinion on the subject, which is unusual. Doesn't take a vote. Doesn't tell us which one to follow. Nope. The Talmud just presents us with the teaching, and it's up to us to study it, understand, and say, oh, this is how long we observe a holiday, and this is how the rabbis in the Talmud understood it, and we continue to debate. So it's a great source of information and a great source of study. However, it's nothing that has to be followed. It doesn't have the same weight as the Torah or the Ten Commandments. Thank you all for watching, and for those of you who are listening to this as a podcast, I'll be posting this as a podcast. We're coming, I think, to the end of our 30 minutes together. I look forward to all of you joining me next Wednesday night at 8. Oh, good night before I sign off.